one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Now, the powerful words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. will ring across our nation on Monday as Americans everywhere reflect on his legacy. But first, a celebration of Dr. King is taking place this evening on the campus of Arizona State University.
And joining us this morning is this year's featured speaker, author, and professor, Archie. Good morning, Mr. Archie. Professor Archie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so you have a brand new book that just came out. I think it was released January 2nd, if my research is correct, entitled...
The Virtue of Colorblindness.
There we go. See? My research was not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. What is this book all about?
So this book is about our tradition of colorblindness. Now, we typically think about colorblindness in the context of Martin Luther King, and that's perfectly fine. Martin Luther King sort of embodied a whole tradition that goes back thousands of years. And so what he focused on is character. What that tradition focuses on is character. So my discussion tonight will look at how character informs that idea of colorblindness. And so to be colorblind is to really look at a person's character and not to judge their racial characteristics or ethnicity in terms of what they can do, their capacities, their capabilities, but to look at their character. And so it's that discussion that I talk about in the book and that I'll get into tonight.
You know, I think it's so interesting when we were chatting during the commercial break. You have a history and you're a lot of learning in philosophy and classical philosophy and in Greek philosophy. And we talked about the idea that, like so many times in history, we kind of come full circle in a lot of ways. And you said this idea of seeing people for their character is not a new one.
It's not a new one. I mean, you look at Plato, you look at Aristotle. I mean, these are old thinkers, but they're very relevant. And that's what Martin Luther King is talking about. When he talks about his children, when he talks about Socrates, in that speech he mentioned Socrates, he's tapping into that tradition. We've forgotten as a country that what makes us exceptional are those sorts of ideas. And this idea of being colorblind now is considered to be racist. I mean, that's absurd. We need to get back to that tradition, and I think that Martin Luther King really tapped into it. We've just forgotten. And so I'm trying to sort of rehabilitate this noble racial tradition that needs to be discussed in a way that is positive, and I think that Martin Luther King really embodies a lot of that positivity.
Professor, do you kind of have an idea or maybe a hypothesis of why that has happened, that kind of juxtaposition of why that thinking has maybe changed here in America?
I think that we have failed in terms of civic education. I think what SCETL is doing is excellent, but there's too few institutions really discussing what makes us exceptional as a country. Our principles, the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, our founding documents are exceptional. It makes us exceptional as a people, not better, but it makes us exceptional. And it's that tradition, that 1,000-year tradition of looking at character that needs to be re-embraced. And I think that when we celebrate Martin Luther King, it's that we should celebrate. So I think these civic organizations like SCETL, they're doing a wonderful job. And so I hope that makes a difference, but I think it's civic education that's faltered.
Well, and I think it's something, obviously, when we look at our education system, even from like K through 12, maybe we reinstitute some of those civics classes. I mean, I took civics in middle school, and I don't think a lot of schools actually still have those classes, but it's important to learn at a young age.
It really is important. I think we're confused today. We think that teaching civic education is to say that we're better as a country, or that there's something about us that makes us really unique and so better. So in other words, I think that we're confused about, well, what makes us different? Not better, but different. That is what needs to be celebrated. And children, when they're taught K through 12, these sorts of things, older kids, younger kids, they come to appreciate what makes us exceptional.
That's true.
And they learn about their government and institutions, etc.
You're visiting from Colorado, so you said this is warm for you because it's 22 in Fort Collins.
Right.
Welcome to summer.
I know, this is wonderful, you know. I mean, I walked to Starbucks and it was,
Yeah.
I had a jacket on and a sweater. I'm like, what is this? This is like...
You were sweating.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm glistening this morning.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to see Professor Archie, he's going to be at the Tempe campus, ASU Tempe campus, the Carson Ballroom, Old Main, tonight beginning at 5 to 7.
Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate being
great
here.
discussion.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.